T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engine ignition, liftoff of the Falcon 9 rocket with science for today and for deep space exploration tomorrow.
Kennedy Space Center, April 8, 2016. SpaceX and NASA work side by side to successfully launch and land the first ever privatized commercial rocket.
SpaceX is a private rocketry company based in El Segundo, California. It's owned by Elon Musk, a billionaire who's interested in space exploration. And they recently had some great success with a rocket that they launched and then actually guided it back and landed it on a platform at sea, which is really an amazing accomplishment because nobody's really ever been able to do that before. And it's really cool because it allows them to reuse the rockets, which makes the actual launching process a lot less expensive.
And a successful landing of the first stage offshore.
I'm convinced that the way to go for the future of the space program is to privatize it. I worked on the space program, and everybody else who worked on it in the 60s thought we'd have a base on the moon by now. Thought we'd have gone to Mars. And where are we? We're still hanging around Earth. I saw what the problem was. The NASA Space Nuclear Propulsion Office, they didn't know what they wanted to do with the space program, with the nuclear rocket engine.
Experts suggest that the NASA we see today might be a front.
It seems kind of bizarre to me that after we put men on the moon in 1969 and to 1972, that this is such big news that we've got a private company launching rockets. I mean, everybody thought back in that era that we were going to be doing this kind of thing all the way through the 70s and 80s, and we probably figured we'd be on the moon and be on Mars by now. But it seems as if there's been something holding us back for years and years, and it's really hard to put your finger on exactly what that is.
Could it be that NASA has another agenda?
I feel that NASA is using private space and private industry as a cover-up. And the reason why is because when you take everything out of governmental into private, you can do a lot more things behind the scenes, and you don't have to answer to anybody.
I feel like anytime NASA's involved, I'm very suspicious because I don't trust them based on my research and years of experience in dealing with them. I don't trust them on political issues, and I worry that they're going to somehow undermine the private company and undermine SpaceX.
Landing operators moving to procedure 11.100 on recovery net.
You think of it this way, the United States a couple of years ago made some public statement that, well, we're eliminating the manned component of our space program. Not only is it untrue, but it makes absolutely no sense. The United States, for it to be the dominant global hegemonic power, which it will never voluntarily cease to be, must control space as a platform of operations. This means having classified space programs at a military base is an absolute priority.
Experts suggest that not only might NASA and the government have a secret space program, but they might be investigating Earth for ancient connections to otherworldly beings.
There are a number of very compelling stories that I believe that have to do with NASA encounters with extraterrestrials. One of the more interesting ones to me is NASA's look at ancient advanced technology. There are massive rock paintings here in the United States at Sago Canyon and other places out in the Midwest of beings that look, what are these? Some of them do look very, very suggestive of non-humans.
Recent evidence suggests that NASA has been investigating ancient ruins in Chaco Canyon, New Mexico.
It does not make any sense that NASA would go to a place like Chaco Canyon and be doing research for astronomical reasons. I mean, NASA's all about space. That's their job. It's the space exploration agency of the U.S. government.
But some researchers point out that something mysterious is going on at Chaco Canyon.
Chaco Canyon is one of the most important sites, archaeological sites in the Southwest, and it is a mysterious one. It's well built, but it's not a megalithic site. There are roads that radiate from Chaco Canyon and go in many different directions. And it would seem that Chaco Canyon was the central part of some kind of extensive system, trading system. One of the mysteries of Chaco Canyon is that the people just vanished and left that area and abandoned the ruins, but archaeologists were unable to find any kind of burials or any kind of graveyards. And this was a mystery to archaeologists. They couldn't really understand how there could be this important center that was Chaco Canyon. And it must have had many people living there, yet there's no sign of any kind of funeral kind of arrangements or that people died there.
If Chaco Canyon isn't just a religious site, what could it have been used for? Some suggest that Chaco Canyon has an unusual energy that could be harnessed if in the right hands.
If I remember correctly, it's that if you use dowsing rods, literally the dowsing rods go in all directions at once, showing you that you're at a center of a ley line vortex, or a sacred site, the intersection of many magnetic energy fields. And those magnetic energy fields are the things that the extraterrestrials have been harnessing for a long time, because instead of using the kind of fossil fuel, they actually were harnessing the electromagnetic energy field of the planet Earth. When you really start looking at that whole area, it appears that there were vast civilization at one point that was pretty sophisticated. It's literally like the beam me up Scotty situation, where they were there one day as an entire tribe and people, and the next day they were gone.
Could it be true that NASA was trying to figure out how to harness this energy? And if they have, would this ancient knowledge help them get further into space?
To me, if they're investigating ancient ruins, they're doing so because they think there's some connection between those ancient ruins and space. And that's, to me, the key thing as to why they would be involved. There are other reasons just don't make any sense, and the fact that certain areas are cordoned off now in the Chaco Canyon ruins is to me a little bit suspicious. I think that they found some connection that they want to exploit, and that's the only reason government agencies or the National Aeronautics and Space Administration would be interested. That's the only reason they'd be interested in doing that kind of research.
Research suggests that ancient sites around the world have been the key to secret government programs.
One of the things that I've investigated over the years is government interest in ancient mysteries and ancient artifacts. And this could actually explain NASA's interest in ancient sites and things like that. For example, through the Freedom of Information Act, the CIA has declassified roughly around 70 pages of a far longer file titled the Ararat Anomaly. And as the title suggests, it's actually a file on Noah's Ark. So you might wonder, why on earth is the CIA interested in Noah's Ark? You'd imagine historians, archaeologists, people in the church would be interested, but not the CIA. But the fact that they are interested suggests that somebody deep within the agency is taking note of the ancient astronaut scenario and possibly even interpreting it as some sort of space ark. People in government or the intelligence community either know or deeply suspect that there were ancient alien visitations, and they're trying to figure out what the truth is. And I think that explains things that NASA is up to today, looking at and marking and targeting ancient sites. So there's a unique and very alternative aspect to that scenario. What if they actually weren't ancient extraterrestrials, but ancient humans who developed highly advanced technology and may have left the planet?
You cannot exclude that. This is all possible. But if you accept the higher society in the past, you do not exclude extraterrestrials. This higher society can at the same time have had contact with extraterrestrials.
Is it possible that NASA and other government organizations are looking for ancient evidence of space travel and ET intervention? And if so, why?
If you look at NASA, basically it's infiltrated by three powerful secret societies, the Freemasons, the Nazis, and what I call the magicians, who are basically followers of Aleister Crowley out at JPL. And there's this real pattern of them being interested in stuff and naming spacecraft even after ancient Egyptian gods, like the Apollo 16 lunar module was named Orion. That is actually the Egyptian god Osiris. And they landed on the moon on Adolf Hitler's birthday at the exact time that Orion's belt was 33 degrees above the landing site. And all that stuff is not a coincidence. NASA definitely plans this, and it's all got to do with some sort of magical alignments that they think will make their missions be successful. NASA could very well be looking for the predecessors to the human race. You know, I mean, I still think that when Neil Armstrong said, when he first stepped on the moon, it's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind, that he did not make a mistake. I mean, the conventional wisdom is he made a mistake and said he should have said, it's one small step for a man. But he didn't say that. And what he meant was, that's one small step for us, for man, for this current version of mankind, but it's a giant leap for the greater, broader human race, mankind, from whence we came. In other words, our ancestors that came to Earth before.
If this is true, where else in the world have researchers been able to dig up evidence of ancient space travel from a possible progenitor race?
There is in Central America, in Mexico, a Maya city with the name of Palenque. And in Palenque is one pyramid which has the name Temple of Inscription. And in 1952, Professor Dr. Rutz, he was the leading archaeologist at that time, he found inside the pyramid a secret stairway going down. They went down, the digging took 3 years, and they landed under the pyramid. And there they stand before a stone in the form of a triangle. They opened the door, and they were standing on a lid, so on a stone plate, a long, big stone plate, 3.8 meters long, 2.2 meters large, so a big block, one monolith. And there was a fantastic engraving. You see something like a frame, and inside of the frame, a man is sitting, bending forward, almost like a racing motorcyclist. He obviously has some oxygen mask on his nose, and you clearly see his 2 hands, he's manipulating some controls. The heel of his left foot is on a kind of pedal. He's sitting on a chair, and behind him, outside the frame, you see something like a linking flame, a fire. So that was absolutely fascinating. There is a human man in a technical machine. Now, of course, I know all the archaeological interpretations. Archaeologists say that this man represents Pakal, which is correct. Pakal was the second last ruler of that Maya city of Palenque. And in archaeology, they suggested it has nothing to do with space travel or with machinery. Pakal is simply sitting in the open mouth of a mythological monster, and he's falling into the earth. And out of his chest, you see the tree of life or something like this. That was the archaeological interpretation some 40 years ago. In the meantime, the 2 leading archaeologists, Stewart and Stewart, because it's the father and the son, in their newest book about Palenque, they say, yes, it is Pakal, the second last ruler of Palenque, but he's not falling into the mouth of a mythological monster. He's leaving the earth in a firing chariot. Everything which is on the stone plate has something to do with the universe and with the stars.
These are the working sheets for the dynasty that were done by Linda and Peter Matthews and Floyd Lounsbury during the first Mesa Redonda.
If this is evidence of ancient space travel, what other kind of earthly objects connect our human origins to the stars?
There are these obelisks, these Egyptian-style obelisks that are all over the world. They seem to be of great value to people that have a lot of esoteric power and knowledge. And you see them all over the world. You could even argue that Stonehenge is, in a sense, an obelisk or a monolith that's very similar to like the monolith that we saw in the film 2001: A Space Odyssey. But to me, the most fascinating connection on that is there is an object on Phobos that was made famous because Buzz Aldrin came out in an interview on C-SPAN in 2009 and said, there's a monolith on Phobos. The shape and the design seems to be to attract energy from above. In other words, to attract all the power is out there in the stars.
The ancient obelisk in the city of Heliopolis was the major spiritual center in all of ancient Egypt. Heliopolis, the city of the sun, and it was actually called the city Anu, named for the head of the Anunnaki gods. But Anu meant pillar to heaven. And we know that there were 48 huge obelisks at that point because these obelisks have been moved to major cities all over the world to harness that same energy. One of those obelisks is in the center of St. Peter's Square, which of course is not a square at all. It's a circle with the symbol of the Anunnaki, the cross with the X. The more we go through our discoveries of modern day archaeology, the GPS systems, the satellite systems, we're discovering hundreds all over the planet.
As you travel around the world in the same 33rd degree parallel, you'll find other monolithic type structures that appear to have been used not just for what's there now, temples, but actually when you lift up the temples and look underneath them, you find megalithic structures like Baalbek, the stones of Baalbek that have been raised up several hundred feet and put into place. According to ancient texts, it appears that those were actually landing places for spaceships. They used to take off, and if you're in a spaceship, you need something to push off on, and it appears to be that those stones could have been something for that.
Now this is at least 1,200 tons, and recent excavations show that there are possibly larger ones underneath it.
There are monoliths here on Earth, there are monoliths in film and television, and then there are monoliths on Mars. So to me, that's pretty amazing stuff, and there's just this connection coming where everything's starting to pull itself together.
If these structures are evidence of an ancient human or ET connection to the stars, is it possible that some of the ruins are actually remnants of an advanced space program here on Earth?
This is a never-ending story. South America, there is one geographical place which is called Pumapunku. And up there in Pumapunku, you find gigantic stone platforms, some of them weighing 800 tons on one block. And the locals said it was the gods who made it. Which gods were the gods who descended from the sky? And they made it in one single night. Later, the so-called gods disappeared. They took their equipment with them, of course. And now the natives come. And the natives, they look at this gigantic stone block, they touch it with their finger, and they say, it's the gods who made this. So the place became holy, a holy place. And now the natives start to construct a temple with their possibilities, with stone, one stone next to the other.
And it's good that they left this stuff in situ, because it lets us hopefully see what it looked like at Pumapunku when this dramatic event happened.
Through our research, we found remnants of what we might assume to be previous space stations or mission control centers on Earth. One of them would be Pumapunku. It's very clear that obviously, to me at least, and some of the researchers, appears to have been some type of a mission control center. It was built like a fort. Very close to the pyramids of Chichen Itza, there's actual holes in the ground. They call them wells, where they used to supposedly sacrifice women or girls to make it rain, because when the rain didn't come, they thought that would please the gods. Actually, when you look at these, they're actual, what they appear to be, holes carved out in the ground from rocket ships. I'm not saying that's what they are, but if you look at the structure of the geology and you look at the way that they're formed, they actually appear to be holes in the ground from a rocket, like missile silos. Whether they were rockets that went to space or whether they were missile silos that launched rockets, we're not exactly sure, but they really appear to be something that used to house technology.
Pictured here are ruins from previous NASA space programs. These structures are scattered all over the U.S. They're almost identical to ruins of civilization left behind thousands of years ago. Could these ancient ruins be left over from a spacefaring race thousands of years ago? A recent discovery sheds light on the possibility that our ancestors actually acquired ET technology and left the planet.
On April 27, 2015, this river of mercury was found under one of the pyramids at Teotihuacan. And the thing about that is mercury is not something that the ancients would have used for any reason. It's something that you use in electrical components. It's very important in materials fabrication for aerospace applications. And it's not the kind of thing that you would have used back in the day. So it doesn't really seem to fit with that ancient civilization and its purposes and its plans. It's something that technological civilizations use.
My opinion of Teotihuacan is a very interesting one because the mercury that they found is an amazing discovery, first of all. Because if you take mercury, it has a lot of very amazing properties. It's a ferrofluid, which means it's like a liquid metal. If you put it into a vortex and electrolyze it, you actually get anti-gravitational properties out of it.
And Teotihuacan is really a mystery to archaeologists. They don't know who built Teotihuacan or for what reason. They date it at around 200 BC or so as beginning. In my mind, were ancient sites that used energy centers. And it's possible that both these sites were some kind of ancient spaceport of some sort.
So I believe that the fact that we found the mercury in the Teotihuacan pyramid complex is an actual amazing discovery that proves that there's an advanced society in the past that have gone to a very high level of civilization and then something happened. What happened, we don't know, but it is believed that there have been advanced societies that have actually built up over time and gone through what we call the Kali Yuga. They've started at a very low level and built themselves to the golden age, and then a cataclysm happens and then we have to start over again. And the fact of that is, if there's a comet strike or a meteor strike here on Earth and everything is wiped out and some of us survive, we all know how to use a cell phone, but we can't make a cell phone. And this is what happens. It's a process of regeneration. Albert Einstein actually said that there were 4 pole shifts of the crust of the Earth on this planet in the past, and that there will be a 5th one coming in the future.
Could Teotihuacan be the remnant of an ancient human space station where some of the inhabitants escaped during a cataclysm?
Based off of research that I've done in the past, I found that ancient kings and queens had access to advanced technology, flying machines. They wouldn't make many of them, and when they did have them, they kept them extremely secret because if their enemies got their hands on them, obviously they would have the upper hand to bomb them, to fly over their high megalithic walls and come into their cities and invade them. So they were kept very, very, very secret. Some of this is in ancient Sumerian text, where according to the text, when the Great Flood came, some of these beings left this planet and actually observed it from above.
Is this evidence of an ancient secret space program?
When you're looking at things like the ancient Vimana, yes, I think that it would be very likely, I don't know this for sure, but it would be very likely that somewhere within the bowels of the global intelligence elite community, there's someone who's thinking, I want to study these Vimana and find out if there's any clues or any of these other ancient texts.
Could ancient humans have escaped major cataclysms by leaving the planet? And if so, is it possible only a selected few were picked to extend the human race?
I really believe in the yugas. You actually go through a cycle over 27,000 years where mankind goes through the Bronze Age and kind of gradually moves back up to the Golden Age again. And it's a process of basically, going back and starting over. These things happen from cataclysms, and everything is cyclical. When a cataclysm happens, no matter how far technologically advanced you are, you will get knocked back down. I think this is why you see the big rush now to go to Mars by private space. You see Elon Musk and SpaceX talking about taking 80,000 people to Mars on a one-way trip. They're not coming back.
The space race inspired a generation of scientists and innovators. It's contributed to immeasurable technological advances that have improved our health and well-being, from satellite navigation to water purification, from aerospace manufacturing to medical imaging.
If these ancient ruins leave evidence of advanced civilizations with the technology to go to the stars, could NASA and the government have acquired the knowledge to join them?
Somehow it is a desire in us. We always have the wish, the dream to go out there to the stars. It's like we have this wish in our genes. We came from there, we want to go there.
On June 8, 2016, Elon Musk had a closed-door meeting with Secretary of Defense Ash Carter at the Pentagon. Carter states he's been focused on promoting links to his department and technology companies. But some suggest this meeting is more evidence that Elon Musk is being invited into a secret space program designed by NASA and the government from the knowledge they've gathered and implemented on other planets.
What happens, what makes a billionaire want to leave this planet? Okay? You have to ask yourself that question. These people are not going to go to another planet and live inside of a spacesuit in a tin can until they die. There's going to be things there that are going to be available to them, an infrastructure to take care of them, to make sure that they're, you know, that they can have a normal life. And I honestly believe that. So I think that there's breakaway civilizations on the moon, on Mars, and other moons of Saturn and also of Jupiter.
Could places like Chaco Canyon, Pumapunka, and Teotihuacan be ancient roadmaps to the stars? Could the government and NASA be using data from these ancient ruins to create their own spacefaring race? If so, why is it kept a secret? Are we headed for a cataclysm? Will history repeat itself and collect only the elite to forward the human race? Up next, if researchers have found evidence of an ancient space program, and possibly even spacefaring people, could this prove that a progenitor race exists within our own universe? And if so, are they watching us? Don't miss the next episode of Deep Space: Mysteries of the Solar System.